Back in 1931, Walter Shewhart illustrated the nature of quality control with a simple challenge. Write the letter A on a piece of paper. Now make another one just like the first one. Then another and another until you have a series of A's. You try to make all of the A's alike, but you don't. You can't. Why is that? And what does it tell us about the nature of variation? My name is Matthew Grogan, and today we're going to talk about the two types of variation and how you should respond when you identify those types of variation. At the end, we'll also talk about how you can use this knowledge to improve your processes. Dr. Shewhart made two main points with the letter A exercise. First, he concluded that there were near infinite causes of variability that affect how you write an A. It could be that the paper wasn't smooth, or the ink in the pen isn't uniform, or any other biological or physical factors. Since there are so many reasons, and we can't hope to understand them all, he concluded that a controlled quality must be a variable quality. If you tried this exercise, your A's will be different than mine, but we can distinguish between the two sets. This leads us to the second observation that controlled variation is predictable within some limits. Now we know enough to place variation into two categories. The first is common cause variation. This is variation that is predictable and inherent in the system. The other type of variation is called special or assignable cause variation. This is variation that's been introduced by some external force. So in our letter A example, it could be because the pen is starting to run out of ink. Now the A's are no longer consistent, and we can't predict what the next one will look like. It's critical to understand the types because you must respond differently to common and special cause variation. Investigation and removal of special cause variation has to happen immediately. So if our pen runs out of ink, we replace the pen or refill the ink. But reaction to common cause variation is different. It wouldn't make sense to react to every instance of the A being a little bit different, because fiddling with a controlled system is likely to introduce even more fluctuation. What you must do instead is fundamentally alter the system. If you want more consistent A's, you could use lined or graph paper to be sure that each letter is the same size. Or you could even use a stencil or a stamp or even a printer. I mentioned earlier that it's critical to understand the two types of variation because you respond differently depending on the type. Let's look at an example from Ford Motor Company. They were turning transmission shafts on a machine that was equipped with an automatic compensation device. If the diameter of the shaft was measured as being too large or too small, the compensation device would adjust the machine to compensate for the discrepancy. Here's a histogram of 50 shaft diameters produced by this process. One day, a statistician suggested that they take another set of 50 readings with the compensation device turned off. Here's the result: reduced variation and therefore better quality. The compensation device was tampering with a process that was actually already stable. This leads us to our first mistake: treating a fault or a complaint, a mistake, an accident as if it came from a special cause, when in fact there was nothing special about it. It was just random variation due to common causes. The second mistake is just the opposite. It's treating special cause variation as if it were common cause or inherent in the system. That usually involves not doing enough due diligence to discover the special cause. I'll cover a great example of that in a future video, so please follow and subscribe so you don't miss it. Okay, so now that we've seen the two types of variation and the two mistakes that people make when responding to that variation, how do we actually improve our processes? Well, we follow a three-phase approach. In phase one, we stabilize the process by identifying and eliminating special causes. For example, we replace the dry pen. In phase two, we improve the process itself. This is where we might introduce the lined paper or use a stencil. In phase 3, we monitor the process to ensure that those improvements are maintained over time. If you have any examples of common cause or special cause variation, I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you'll also like my video on the 5 metrics that outstanding businesses use to control their operations. Thanks for watching.